Do you want to intro it? Do you remember it?
I think I remember it.
It's been a break.
Oh my God, do I remember it?
I think I remember it.
Shit. Good evening. You're listening to Myth and Mist, your one-stop podcast for thrillers, chillers, and killers of the Pacific Northwest. I'm Genevieve.
I'm Haley.
Thank you for tuning in tonight.
Wow, that memory.
There was a second there where I almost lost it. Practice makes perfect.
We've been gone a few weeks.
We have. It's been 3 weeks?
3 weeks, yeah.
It's way too long.
Yeah,
Let's not do that ever again.
You got married.
I got married.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It was nice.
Yeah.
It was little. It was good.
Nice Halloween wedding, Halloween anniversary.
It was. The ceremony was nice. The judge was really chill. I thought she was going to be like this austere lady in her 70s, but she was like super sweet, jolly little lady. Aww. And she like actually said really nice things. And then after we did that, we went on like a little walk in the cemetery, and it was
cute.
Just nice.
Lone fir.
Mm-hmm. Nice little romantic time.
I might have a story about lone fir here in a little bit. Spoiler alert.
What were your Halloween activities?
I was a little sick on Halloween, so we didn't do much. We always like to hand out candy, so we handed out some candy to kids. We did not get very many trick-or-treaters this year, which was really sad, but it was raining a lot.
Yeah, it was. The weather this year was not ideal.
So I wonder how other neighborhoods do. I know that we are one of the only houses on our street that hand out candy, and that...
How is that possible?
I don't know. I mean, the next door neighbors, they aren't Halloween people.
Oh, yeah,
and the people on the other side have kids, and they take them trick-or-treating.
Oh. You think that somebody would stay or at least put a bowl out or something?
Yeah.
Like, come on.
And I wonder if other streets... Our neighborhoods are the same. If people, less and less people are handing out candy.
I don't think really there's like, no, that's not true. There's a couple like young kids on our block, but I didn't notice. I mean, we live in an apartment, so we're not like, we don't really have like the action seats, but.
Do kids trick or treat through apartments like that?
Not in our building.
Interesting. Okay.
I would love it if they did. Yeah. I think that'd be so cute.
That'd be really fun.
It would be a nightmare though with the dogs because they freak out when someone knocks on the door.
It was a little rough with these two. We would like have to take turns holding them back.
Do they not like kids or?
They just don't. I mean, it's like you've seen when you come in, they like jump on you. Yeah. And that's just what they want to do. They're fine with kids, but they will jump on them.
Darby does not like kids.
No.
So trick or treat.
Trick.
Yeah, that might be too much. But in theory, it would be really cute.
Yeah.
I remember when I was a kid, my grandparents lived in an apartment, and I think they got trick-or-treaters.
Cute.
Maybe, I don't know. I think people are just getting like cantankerous and shitty.
Yeah.
And like they're like, I don't have time for this whimsical shit.
Also, candy's like so fucking expensive now.
It's so expensive. Especially the name brand like good candy.
Yeah.
Reese's, Kit Kats. Through the roof.
It pisses me off that people give out full-size candy bars. Like, kids don't need that.
They don't need that.
And also, it really, like...
It just makes the rest of us look bad, too.
Yeah.
I'm like, why? Okay, flex. Like,
yeah. Unnecessary.
Yeah. Oh, I can afford a full-size bar for every trick-or-treater. Like, okay, fuck off. Fuck right off. I'm pretty bummed that October is over, but I feel like I am just gonna keep the vibe, keep the party rolling through November. I mean, December is even spooky because, you know, it's just dark all the time.
Yeah.
Krampus is kind of scary.
Winter is the true spooky season.
It is. It's very scary. It just looks like death outside.
Yeah.
All the time.
Feels like death
and
inside.
much of spring as well, actually.
Yeah.
So maybe this will be the year that Halloween just continues.
It never ends.
That sounds nice. If you are ready to dive into this week's topics, I have quite a few content warnings for my discussion this week, and I hope that I address them all before I get into the story. If not, I guess we can edit it later, so it doesn't matter. But there's a lot of hard topics in this particular case, or this, I guess it is a case, but it's also kind of a broader discussion about what was going on during the times of the murders that I'm going to be talking about. So we're talking about murder, obviously, a lot of talk about hate crime and discrimination, assault and battery, and there is a brief mention of animal abuse as well. I don't know what that was.
What'd you get, Rue? Get out of there.
The hell was that? Sound like she was eating spaghetti.
She might have found one. I don't know.
Is that spaghetti?
You find spaghetti in the corner.
Spaghetti.
You're so lucky.
Spaghetti corner. So lots of stuff. If it's too intense for you, feel free to skip ahead to Haley's stories, and you won't have to hear about it. And before we begin, this episode is brought to you by Fernet. Here we go. Hattie Mae Cohens and Brian Mock met at a community-sponsored program for adults living with disabilities. Hattie was a 29-year-old black lesbian, Brian, a 45-year-old gay white man. The two took an instant liking to each other. Brian was shy and a timid man, while Hattie Mae was boisterous and bubbly. She had a way of bringing people out of their shell, making them laugh, making them feel safe enough to be themselves around her. Brian admired Hattie Mae's confidence and humor, so when he found out she was looking for a place to live, he didn't hesitate to offer her the spare room in his basement apartment. Hattie Mae, who had been recently incarcerated, was grateful for a safe and stable living situation. She moved into the apartment shortly thereafter, and the two became roommates. Soon after she moved in, Hattie Mae became aware that Brian was the recipient of constant harassment and repeated attacks by a local group of racist skinheads. Although Brian was a large man, many people described him as a gentle giant. He tended not to fight back or defend himself when attacked, giving him a reputation as an easy target. There were often witnesses to Brian's torment. One Salem neighbor said, quote, "Brian got beat on all the time. He'd walk by here every day and he'd have new bruises. His face was just fractured, beaten brutally all along here," she said, gesturing at her cheekbone. This last time that he was beaten for being gay. Hattie Mae witnessed the abuse Brian suffered at the hands of his attackers, but she wasn't one to sit back and do nothing. One afternoon in September, Brian suffered a particularly brutal beating. Later that day, his attackers showed back up at his home as he sat in his yard. It was then that Hattie Mae and 4 friends, all black males, went out to confront them. There was a brief, albeit nonviolent confrontation, and they left, screaming racist slurs before getting in their car and speeding off. Hattie Mae's friends followed their car and ended up tracking 2 of them to a nearby apartment complex in downtown Salem. These 2 men were later identified as Sean R. Edwards and Leon Tucker. Again, a confrontation ensued, only this one ended with Edwards getting a well-deserved punch in the mouth. However, according to witnesses, that was the extent of the violence. Hattie Mae's friends didn't escalate beyond that one hit before they left, heading back to her and Brian's apartment. Something else had been bruised that night, though, something far more fragile than Sean Edwards' jaw, his ego. On the night of September 26, 1992, Edwards and Tucker rounded up fellow neo-Nazis Philip Wilson and Yolanda Cotton. They drank some beers, then stocked up on bottles and gasoline, and drove back to Brian and Hattie Mae's apartment. They circled the block, preparing their supplies, and although it's unclear exactly which participant filled the glass bottles with gasoline, and lit the match, we know unequivocally that it was Sean Edwards who threw the first bomb directly through Hattie Mae's bedroom window. She had been sleeping soundly when a deafening boom jolted her awake. The explosion rocked the house. Flames erupted, climbing the walls and shooting spirals of black smoke into the air so fast she barely had time to react. Chaos erupted as the other inhabitants woke one by one to screams and smoke. They scrambled to find each other, to escape the fire already raging inside. Then another explosion. A second firebomb erupted. More smoke, more flames. The home was burning, fast. Hattie Mae's 4 friends managed to make it outside before fire took the structure. But the smoke had blinded Hattie Mae, choked her lungs with carbon, disorienting and slowing her. Her cousin Eddie tried in vain to pull her to safety, even managing to grab hold of her for a brief moment through the broken window. But in the end, he wasn't able to get her out. She died in the apartment of smoke inhalation. Brian managed to make it outside, crawling onto the lawn before collapsing. He was badly burned, a witness recalled. He was rushed to the hospital, but tragically succumbed to his injuries. He died the next day, on the 27th of September. It was later divulged in court that Brian and Hattie Mae's murderers bragged about the bombing, one of them saying, quote,
"I hope she popped like a hot dog in a microwave."
Another was quoted as saying,
"Mess with the best, die like the rest."
It didn't take long for police to find and arrest them. There were multiple eyewitnesses putting Edwards' car at the scene, and even more identifying Edwards and Tucker as Brian's recurrent aggressors. And although it was Sean Edwards who threw the first bomb, there were 3 others in the car with him that night, all between the ages of 20 and 22. Sean Edwards was the only one of the 4 who pleaded guilty to the murder in the hopes that his choice of plea would one day result in a chance at parole. During the trial, his defense attorney, Kevin Lafke, called the murder, quote, a sad, tragic collapse in judgment, and claimed alcohol was largely to blame. It took 3 weeks to get through all the testimony accrued for the case, and jurors deliberated for 3 days before reaching a verdict. They found Leon Tucker and Philip Wilson Jr. guilty of murder, assault, arson, and racial intimidation, but not guilty of aggravated murder, or murder committed within a specific set of circumstances, making it more egregious. Aggravating factors include killing a member of law enforcement, killing whilst committing another serious crime, killing to escape prison or while serving a prison sentence for a prior crime, having a prior conviction of murder, and causing multiple fatalities in one incident. Sean Edwards was sentenced to 25 years in prison. Philip Wilson received a 35-year sentence, and Leon Tucker a sentence of 30 years. Yolanda Cotton was acquitted on all charges. She served only 6 months, awaiting and during her trial, for providing the bottles used in the firebombs. Following coverage of the verdicts, profiles of all 4 defendants were released to the public. In all 4 cases, themes of abuse, neglect, a lack of social bonding, and addiction were common. And while their backgrounds are in no way an excuse for the deplorable ideologies they chose to follow, ideologies that led them to commit the heinous murders of Hattie Mae Cohen and Brian Mock, they do provide insight into how and why they might have been recruited and seduced by neo-Nazi rhetoric. White supremacist roots run deep in the state of Oregon. In the 1920s, the KKK held a tremendous amount of power in the state. Beginning in Medford, they pushed their racist anti-immigrant agenda, and it spread far and wide, aided largely by white Protestant participation. And even though the Klan lost much of its clout by 1928, Oregon remained plagued by racist and exclusionary legislature and a significant white supremacist presence in the years to come. In 1988, Ethiopian student Mulugeta Sirah was murdered in southeast Portland by 3 members of the racist skinhead gang Eastside White Pride, 23-year-old Ken Miski, 19-year-old Kyle Brewster, and 20-year-old Steven Strasser. All 3 pled guilty to murder charges. Following their sentencing, there was a decline in white supremacist activity in Oregon. Not that the organizations dispersed entirely, but membership did drop in numbers. The gravity of the violence and the severe consequences bestowed upon the men responsible for Mulugeda's was murder seemed to put some fear in the members of the various movements. But in 1992, everything changed. Why? Because the states of Oregon and Colorado became, quote, testing grounds for certain ballot initiatives that served to amend the states' constitutions. They were presented as Colorado's Amendment 2 and Oregon's Ballot Measure 9. Each initiative would prohibit and revoke laws that served to protect homosexuals from discrimination. The Oregon referendum, which was sponsored by an organization called the Oregon Citizens Alliance, or OCA, went on to further mandate that, quote, all government agencies and schools recognize homosexuality as abnormal, wrong, unnatural, and perverse, and no government monies could be used to facilitate homosexuality. A clear and divisive line formed between Oregonians, those in favor of Ballot Measure 9 and those who opposed it. With the introduction of the new proposed bill, numbers affiliated with neo-Nazi groups grew, and violence against gay, queer, and trans Oregon residents increased significantly. Donna Redwing, a gay activist living in Oregon at the time of the proposed bill, said, quote,
people died in Oregon because of the campaign. People are going to die all over America because there are those who believe that gay and lesbian people, the bisexual and transgender people, are somehow less than they are.
Those with racist and homophobic agendas felt once again empowered to act on those agendas with immunity. It was in the midst of this unrest that Hattie Mae Cohen and Brian Mock were murdered. But the acts of terror didn't end with the murder of Hattie Mae and Brian. In the days following their murders, the days leading up to the vote on Ballot Measure 9, anyone speaking out in support of Oregon's gay community had a target on their back. In October of 1992, a Catholic church in Hillsborough was attacked and the rectory was lit on fire. The church had been spray-painted with SS symbols and homophobic and racist language. This attack followed a public statement made by the Archbishop of the Catholic Church of Oregon on why Catholics should oppose Ballot 9. People in this community really understand because in the 1920s the Ku Klux Klan was very strong and managed to push a law through to close Catholic schools, said Father Jim Galuzzo, a member of the clergy. They even went through schools and churches looking for Catholics with guns because they thought the Catholics had an agenda to take over the state. So I think for some of the older people here, they remember the cross burnings and some of the same kinds of things, and when they saw the graffiti on the rectory, it reminded them of the 1920s. In Portland, another church was vandalized. The only thing taken? A mailing list of 200 to 300 names. Over 90% of this congregation is made up of gay and lesbian people, said Reverend Gary Wilson after the break-in, and there is no end to the harmful way this can be put to work. Reports came in droves of No on 9 signs being removed or vandalized. In Newport, 2 activists had hung signs on trees near the freeway, only to have them removed. They rehung their signs, and upon making another pass by the area the next day, they discovered all the trees they had hung their signs on had been cut to the ground. Another woman, who is an outspoken ally and supporter of gay rights in rural Oregon, went out to feed her horse one morning and found it had been mutilated with a pitchfork. Prior to that, she had received dozens of death threats. At one point, the lug nuts on her car were loosened, which she didn't discover until she was driving on a mountain road and nearly got in a wreck when her tire began to fall off. These are only a handful of accounts of the violent and hateful offenses committed against Oregon's queer community in 1992, but the documented threats and attacks are innumerable. In the end, the OCA was unsuccessful. Thankfully, Ballot Measure 9 did not pass. However, Colorado's Amendment 2 was successfully passed in Colorado that same year. Within a month of the election, anti-gay violence in Colorado increased by 275%. The amendment was finally struck down by the Supreme Court in October 1996. In the case of Romer versus Evans, It was ruled by the courts that the amendment, which denied legal protections to gay and lesbian citizens, violated the 14th Amendment's Equal Protection Clause. Regardless of the legislature's failing in Oregon, the consequences of its proposal cannot be undone. Hattie Mae Cohen and Brian Mock were martyred, lost their lives because dangerous, homophobic, and racist ideologies were given credence in our communities, because hate and intolerance were provided with justification under the guise of Christian values and moral conduct. President of the National NAACP said it perfectly in her press conference addressing the public in 1992. There can be no justice when we single out any group of citizens and decide that there must be special laws to deprive them of their rights. What really frightens me as a national official is the question that comes to mind: where does this go, if indeed there is success here? Community activist Kathleen Sadat, who was tremendously involved in the No on 9 campaign, said in an interview, "It's not because I sleep with women that the world is falling apart. I see Measure 9 as just the tip of an iceberg, an intent by a group of people to run this country under fascist standards." Under fascist standards. Now, why does that sound all too familiar?
That's a rough one.
Yeah.
And it sucks to be here now, knowing that nothing's changed in 30, 40 years.
It kind of blows my mind because Portland is known as such a progressive, Oregon is known as such a progressive state. But the truth is that legislature came very close to passing. Would it have stood the test of time? Probably not, but it was very close to passing.
Portland's a pretty liberal city, but outside of Portland, I don't think people realize that the state itself is
The only reason that
pretty
Oregon's
red.
a blue state is because of Portland.
Yeah. There's this other podcast I recommend that does like a whole series deep dive on the neo-Nazis in Portland in the 80s and 90s. It's called It Did Happen Here.
Oh, interesting. Would love to listen to that.
Yeah, I recommend. And then I also recently listened to another podcast that wasn't about Portland, but it was about the Nazi scene in Chicago at around a similar time period. And that one was called Motive, and it was season 3 specifically. I recommend giving that one a listen as well. It does a really good job at of explaining of how they recruit young, angry, lonely people and how easy it is for those kids to get wrapped up in.
It is very culty.
Yeah.
There was a lot of information specifically on Yolanda Cotton and her backstory that I specifically chose not to include because, yes, I do believe that, and you heard it, all of these people that were charged with murder were young. They were young people, 19 to 23. So we're talking babies, but they still were adults with free will.
Yeah.
And what pisses me off is time and time again, there's always all this information that is accessible on the perpetrators. And when I try to find, I couldn't even find any pictures online of Hattie Mae Cohen and Brian Mock. I couldn't find, all I could find was a very limited amount of information on the two of them. I scoured the internet for it, and there just wasn't that much, but there was tons of information on, like I said, particularly Yolanda Cotton, because she had a horrible life. She had a horrible childhood, and she did end up abandoning those white supremacist Nazi ideologies. I also think that she should have done some time.
Yeah.
Frankly.
Agreed.
If you look at not a similar case, but kind of a similar situation, I don't know if you've ever heard of Aaron Caffey.
I'm not sure.
I think it's Caffey. Erin Caffey or Erin Caffrey. Anyway, she was a 16-year-old girl who recruited her boyfriend and her boyfriend's friend to kill her family for her.
Oh, wow.
I believe it was in Texas. And her family showed up. She's a white girl, white 16-year-old, middle class, white Christian family. So it was her boyfriend, her boyfriend's friend, and then her boyfriend's friend's girlfriend in the car. They pulled up to the house. She and her boyfriend's friend's girlfriend stayed in the car. The two men went in. They tried to murder everybody in the house and lit the house on fire. Her father ended up surviving, crawled to a neighbor's house. They were able to call the police. Point being, she, I believe, got life in prison without the possibility of parole for orchestrating the murders. Her boyfriend and her boyfriend's friend also got life without the possibility for parole. They took a plea so they wouldn't get the death penalty. Her boyfriend's friend's girlfriend, who did nothing other than sit in the car and exist while the murders were committed, she got 40 years, mandatory serving 25. She did less than Yolanda Cotton, who actually provided the bottles that were used to make the Molotov cocktails that killed these people and could have killed and endangered so many more. She served no time. She served 6 months. Had the firebombing occurred to a sweet Christian, quote unquote, sweet Christian
yeah.
white family, I think all of these people would have done a hell of a lot more time. 25 years for premeditated murder of 2 people and attempted murder of however many is just a failure to me.
And this was in the 90s, right? So they're out now.
This was, one of them, I believe, one of them did die in prison, I believe, of hepatitis C. One of them was released on parole, but was reincarcerated for similar offenses, and the other one was released, and I don't believe he reoffended. He changed his name, and he's who knows where he is. So yeah, two of the 3 of them are out. One of them is dead. I don't know what became of Yolanda Cotton. Hopefully she did something good with her life. But it's just such a blatant, it's just such a blatant, like, oh, it's a gay black woman, this gay guy, who cares? Yeah, get 25 years, whatever. And there was even a quote that I read from one of the jurors that was like, it's just so sad that that these kids threw their lives away. And I'm like, it's sad that you're saying it's sad that these kids now, their lives are ruined. You have nothing to say about the 2 people who suffered years of shit from these people and were then brutally murdered by them.
Yeah.
To you, it's more sad that these young white kids are like actually going to be penalized for the crimes that they committed. Man.
Yeah.
It's just like, fuck. It's just a bummer.
Such a bummer how little info there is on the actual victims.
So much of the time there is.
They're the ones that are forgotten. And
there's a wonderful documentary that you can rent on, I think I rented on YouTube. It's called Ballot Measure 9. It's really good. It's an hour long, but it has a lot of interviews with a lot of the advocates and the people that were involved in the counter protests of the proposed measure, and a lot of firsthand accounts of the intimidation and violence that they were subjected to in that period of when it was unsure if it was going to pass or not. And there's a lot of truly just brain-scramblingly stupid footage of, kids, young kids, like 16, 17-year-old kids getting interviewed on why they're pro pro the amendment, and the kind of slander and propaganda that politicians would subject the public to in order to try and just fearmonger them into being pro the measure. Like, they used homosexual and pedophile basically as though they were like in the same group of.
They still are doing that too.
Yep. And they came up with these crazy statistics that are like based in nothing. Like, 34% of homosexuals engage in eating one another's feces. And I'm like,
What?
who conducted these surveys? Like, where are you getting these numbers? Very specific percentages, and it like in doing these like power like slide presentations where the guy's like wearing a suit and he's like got glasses on and he looks real official and he's like, this is how it is, here's the numbers. Like, it's just, and
Gotta
it's all
trust the guy in the suit.
It's just all in nonsense.
Yeah.
Obviously. I think it's like exactly an hour.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna look it up.
It's
I had
good.
not even heard about it. About 9. So.
I had not either until I don't even remember how I found this case. I was going to cover another one, and unfortunately there just wasn't enough information on that one.
Mm-hmm. This is a good one. This is an important one that honestly we should do like a whole episode over. I feel like silly talking about like ghosts after this because it's such an important
I feel like
topic.
I need to hear about ghosts after this case because I really did. I wasn't intending on going this deep with it, but it kind of just kept going and going and going, and it felt like I would be doing a disservice to talking about these deceased people if I didn't kind of explain the context of what was going on when they were killed.
More people need to know about it.
I had never heard of Hattie Mae Cohen.
Right? Yeah.
I had never heard of Brian Mock. This happened in Salem. It's super close. Also, just kind of shows like how quickly the shit can hit the fan. You know, just with the right cocktail of like fear and misinformation.
Which we are seeing. I mean, we're seeing now too.
I mean, it's constant, but it's like, I don't know, something about seeing it in the 90s was very jarring.
Yeah. We tend to romanticize the 90s, but things were not
was
great
fucked.
in the 90s.
Anybody that thinks that shit has been chill until Trump was elected and now things are crazy, you're not looking back far enough.
I need to pause for a second because I need to use the restroom. I'm sorry.
Don't be sorry. I might go after you.
October may be over, but that doesn't mean spooky season is. The days are getting shorter, the nights are getting longer, the air is getting chiller, and I think it's a perfect time to talk about some haunted cemeteries. Nestled in southeast Portland, Lone Fir Cemetery is one of Oregon's most well-known and treasured historical places. The cemetery has also held plenty of spooky lore for being a final resting place of over 25,000 of the city's pioneers, early Chinese immigrants, asylum patients, firefighters, many babies, many children, and more. The first burial was Immer Stevens in 1846. He was buried on the land that was at the time used as the family farm. In 1855, the land was officially named Mount Crawford Cemetery before later being renamed Lone Fir in 1866. It was named for its once solitary fir tree in the northwest corner that is still standing today. People previously buried in other downtown cemeteries were moved to Lone Fir shortly after, and it became the sole burial spot for Portlanders until Riverview Cemetery opened up in 1893. According to a member of the volunteer organization Friends of Lone Fir, there are dozens, if not hundreds, of children and babies buried at Lone Fir Cemetery. A woman named Addie Decker had a daughter who tragically passed when she was 2 and is buried at the cemetery. It is said that Addie would visit her daughter's grave every day and would bring a cradle and toys. After Addie herself died, people would see the cradle rocking with nobody around it. People say that they often hear the sound of children playing and laughing around the gravesite, including volunteers for the Friends of Lone Fir organization. The most famous spirit in the Lone Fir Cemetery is that of Anne Tingry-Lacose, also known as Emma Merlotin. Born in France in 1850, she immigrated to the U.S. with her family when she was around 6. In adulthood, she lived in an upscale neighborhood with her husband before he ran off with another woman to New York. To support herself and her lifestyle, she became a sex worker. Sadly, just before Christmas on December 22, 1985, Merlotin was brutally murdered in her home at 3rd and Yamhill. Shortly before 11 o'clock p.m., a police officer discovered Merlotin's body lying face down in a wide pool of blood. She had been brutally attacked with a hatchet, and her murder still remains unsolved. She was just 28 years old. Many visitors to Lone Fir report seeing a shadowy figure of a woman dressed in French fashion roaming the cemetery. If approached, she is said to throw up her hands, scream, and disappear. Another notable resident of Lone Fir is Dr. James Hawthorne. He was in charge of an asylum in the 1800s called Oregon Hospital for the Insane. His memory is honored by a white obelisk in Block 8 of the cemetery. It is said that he generally cared for his patients and was known for his kindness and compassion. His hospital was regarded as one of the best institutions of its kind in the United States at that time. He buried more than 130 of his patients at Lone Fir at his own expense when the patient's family wouldn't claim the bodies. It isn't known exactly where the former patients are buried. It is speculated that they rest in what is called Block 14 in the southwest corner. Local historians and mental health advocates are currently working with Portland Metro to plan a memorial area for the former patients. Another resident is named Charity Lamb. She murdered her husband in 1854 by bringing an axe down on his head after he sat down at the dinner table. Charity was the first woman to be convicted of murder in the Oregon Territory and was sentenced to a lifetime of hard labor at the Oregon State Penitentiary. A decade later, she was transferred to Dr. Hawthorne's asylum, where she died in 1879. I had a difficult time finding many written encounters of ghosts in Lone Fir, but I did find an entry on Reddit from user Herman_Zygote. Hey guys, first post on Reddit, so bear with me here. This happened last fall with a very good friend of mine. In southeast Portland, there is a very old cemetery known as Lone Fir. It's very spooky, tons of graves and crypts from the late 1800s. It was around 11:30 at night, and me and my friend were waiting to meet with another friend around the corner. He was running late, so to kill time, we decided to hop the fence and explore the cemetery. We were walking along the road inside and noticed a figure standing still about 50 yards ahead of us. Thinking it was someone trying to scare us, I yelled, "What up?" No reply. So we kept walking towards it, attempting to play along with this person's joke. When we finally got within 20 feet, the person went completely catatonic and violently jerked their head up towards the sky. At this point, me and my friend were a little taken aback. However, I still couldn't see the person's face or clothes because it was so dark. I walked closer until I could make out the face of an old man with a long beard. He was wearing a white shirt and black pants. He was still staring up at the sky until I said hello. He let out a blood-curdling yell and jerked his head violently in the direction of my friend and I. His eyes were completely blank-looking, and he just stared, then yelled again. After that, me and my friend booked it out of the cemetery. We had no idea what we saw. We were freaking out. However, I've always had an interest in the paranormal, so we immediately went back to see if it was some homeless guy on PCP. We scanned through the cemetery, and not a single person was there. My friend was so terrified he refuses to talk about what happened to this day. Lafayette Pioneer Cemetery is located about 14 miles southwest of Portland. It was established in the mid-19th century and is often regarded as the most haunted and scary cemetery in Oregon. Common stories include shadowy figures, cold spots, and whispers among the graves. There have been many cases of strange lights and orbs seen by visitors, and many visitors have reported feeling watched while exploring the cemetery, and ghost hunters have picked up strange readings. The spirits here are thought to belong to the area's early settlers. The presence is generally strongest during twilight hours or on quiet mornings. One of the most popular legends is that of the Witch of Lafayette. Her name is unknown, but local lore says she was beaten and hanged after being falsely accused of witchcraft and now haunts the cemetery. Visitors have seen a female figure in old-fashioned clothing wandering the graves. When near the oldest headstones, visitors have also reported feeling an overwhelming sense of dread of being watched. Some people have even heard a voice scream, "Run home!" She is known as the guardian of the grounds, and she protects the area from disrespectful visitors. She does not like those who disturb her peace. One of the most interesting reports of activity associated with the accused witch is the change in the weather. Reportedly, a hot summer day has suddenly turned into a gusty winter temperature, and winter winds have suddenly given way to an extreme spike in heat. Many people who enter claim that they have feelings of dread and do not feel welcomed. Another woman who is said to haunt the cemetery is Lena Elsie Emus, who died from suicide in 1908 by drinking carbolic acid. Her former home is now the site of Argyle Winery, which is also rumored to be haunted by her spirit. Visitors have described seeing a woman in period clothing walking among the headstones laughing. Some visitors say they smell flowers or perfume and hear footsteps when no one is there. Anna Marple is another woman rumored to haunt the cemetery grounds. Her son Richard was hanged in November of 1887 for the murder of a local businessman named David Corker. Many speculated that Anna was an accomplice, but she was never formally charged with any wrongdoing. She was believed to be a witch, and as her son was hanged, she screamed out a curse on the town, wishing that it would burn. Not too long after the hanging, the town experienced 2 significant fires. Richard was buried at Lafayette Cemetery, but Anna was not. And I'm going to read a couple experiences at this cemetery that I found online, both from a user-submitted forum on OregonHauntedHouses.com. From February 17th, 2020. We barely made it through the entrance before hearing some woman laugh. It's 3 a.m., no one would be there laughing. I suddenly felt my chest get super tight, almost hard to breathe. I'm really susceptible to ghosts and spirits. When my chest got tight, I knew that my guardian angel or friendly spirit was telling me to not go in. I could have swore I heard a voice in my head that said don't, and I fucking left. We ran back to the car, and when I was running, I could almost feel someone right behind me breathing on me. I'm glad I got out of there while I had the chance. And from June 14th, 2021. Long ago, my buddies and I decided to go late at night, spend a bit of time there, kept feeling like something was watching us. We tried to get her to talk to us and tried to rustle her feathers a bit, found where we think she died and was buried. We began taunting her to get an answer, no words. But one buddy said something that must have pissed her off because he ended up getting grabbed so hard between his left shoulder and collarbone that he fell to his knees in the grass. There was no visible person around him, and when we looked at where he was grabbed, and I shit you not, bro, he had a deep black handprint that by flashlight looked like dark red blood. We decided it was time to leave. Right before we left, she blew on my neck, and we spun around, and there was her apparition. Scared us so bad that we took off running.
Bro.
Shit you not, bro.
Okay, but hear me out. What if the laughter was because Conan O'Brien was doing like a secret stand-up
Maybe.
in that cemetery, and so people were laughing because it was funny.
Yeah,
and
that
you
seems-
just missed out on a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to see a super exclusive Conan O'Brien
That seems
comedy night.
probable. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm just saying, you could have missed, like, you could have been laughing too.
This is true. Don't run away in cemeteries. You
When
never
you
know.
hear laughter in a cemetery, go to it because it could be your favorite comedian.
Yeah, you never know.
It
You
could
never
be.
know. Had you heard any of those stories about lone fir?
I had heard a little bit about the history, just that it started as just a farm where the owner was buried.
Mm-hmm.
But there's that gravestone, you know, the one that I'm talking about. It has the couple. It's like the really crazy looking one.
I don't know.
I have a picture of it, I think probably that I took on Halloween. Did I not take a picture of the couple? Oh. Anyway, it's like engraved into the gravestone is this old couple, and they're like holding hands, and they look kind of like austere.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess that woman, I don't remember if it was the woman or if it was the man. One of them was the offspring of the original owner of the farm. And that's like their family area
Okay.
up there.
Interesting.
So I know where his gravestone is, and I know that one with the couple on it is his family.
That's cool.
And I was going to show you this. I did not know this. There's this other insane gravestone there that was this guy, Frederick Roeder, who I guess drowned. And for whatever reason, the man that made his gravestone thought that it would be chill to put an illustration of his manner of death on the gravestone.
Oh.
So you can see that little hand coming out of the water.
I don't like that.
There's the boat. You can see two little hands. That's him drowning
That's so sad.
on the gravestone. So I don't know. And it says drowned.
Damn.
So I don't know if that was something that his family asked him to do, or if he just took some like weird artistic liberties with it. But yeah, I just found out about that one.
If I paid someone to inscribe a loved one's headstone and they took artistic liberties, I would be kind of pissed.
I would too, especially, you know, in those times. They probably were like, here's my last pennies. I want to honor whoever. Yeah, I don't know. But imagine giving your last coins to have your loved one honored in their final resting place, and they're like, look, he's drowning. It's pretty messed up. I'm also wondering, in that one story where there's the guy, have you ever heard of the lone fir? I don't remember if he was called the lone fir goblin or the lone fir gargoyle.
No, but I want to.
Okay, so probably shortly after, not that short, I want to say 2017-ish.
Okay.
There was a person that would hang out kind of on Belmont, kind of in that area, and I'm not sure if they were a houseless person or if they were just kind of like transient. I'm not really sure what their deal was, but they looked super like goth, like kind of crusty goth, like definitely like they had hopped some trains in their day, but they wore like this crazy headpiece thing with crow's wings coming out of it,
This guy sounds cool.
and like a cloak, but it wasn't like shtick. They weren't cosplaying. Like it was like very apparent that that's like all they had to wear, and that was what they wore all the time. And sometimes they would be chill, and other times they were not, and they would be having like severe mental health crises, like in the midst of Belmont, and people would walk around them and stuff. And apparently they liked to hang out in Lone Fir Cemetery after dark and occasionally try to stab people.
Ooh. Okay.
So, yeah, I think it was on the news or in Willamette Weekly or something, like multiple sightings of this person
That's so scary.
chasing people through the cemetery at night and trying to stab them with like a shank.
Oh my God, every bit of that is so scary. Like from the way that he's dressed to being in the cemetery at night to being possibly shanked while you're walking through a peaceful
Yes.
nighttime cemetery.
I do remember seeing this. I saw this person multiple times on Belmont. They never bothered me or said anything to me. I never saw them in Lone Fir. And you can't even get into Lone Fir at night anymore.
Yeah.
I haven't seen them in years and years. I'm assuming they've moved on to their next adventure, wherever that may be. But
And he was referred to as
the Lone Fir,
goblin.
I want to say it was the Lone Fir Gargoyle or the Lone Fir Goblin.
Oh wow.
Yes. But they didn't make any mention of the person that they saw having a hat. He might have taken the hat off. I genuinely don't remember if he had a beard or not.
Sure.
I just remember he looked intense.
Yeah. That story just really sounds like someone on drugs hanging out at the cemetery
It
to me.
does.
It doesn't sound paranormal. However, it would be frightening.
It would, absolutely. But then again, it's like you're in a cemetery at night. Don't you kind of want to be scared?
It's true, yeah.
A little?
A little. If not, why are you going?
The idea of a ghost seen walking through a cemetery laughing is so funny to me.
know.
Like, it's just like anybody just walking around laughing is really funny to me and a little bit disconcerting as well. But you just see a ghost and she's just like walking around being like, it's really funny. I don't know what I would do.
Rules, though. Like if I was a ghost, that's how I want to do
You're
it.
just walking around laughing. Fuck it. I'm dead. Whatever.
Man.
I love those stories. I love the Lone Fir Cemetery. It's
Me too.
beautiful. I was just there last week with Glue.
Aww.
And we had a nice walk. Dogs are actually not allowed in Lone Fir, which I think is really silly.
Yeah.
But I still took them in there.
Yeah. I understand the rules a little bit because, I mean, you're a responsible dog owner, but there are a lot of... You don't want, like, dogs shitting all over people's
That's
graves.
true. If you're not a responsible dog owner, don't bring your dog into
Don't
the
have a
cemetery.
fucking dog.
Then don't have a dog, I guess. Yeah. Just don't have a dog.
Yeah.
I really needed that little ghostly dose. Ooh, that's fun to say.
Ghostly dose.
Ghostly dose.
A little dose of ghost.
Little ghost dose. At the end there. I was hoping to have some cemetery stories from someone to give you to read, but unfortunately that fell through. So
That's okay.
not to beat a dead horse, but please send us your stories.
Yes. You can email us at mythandmistpodcast@gmail.com. You can type out your story. We could read it for you, or you could record a voice note and we'll play it. Please do.
Either or. If you would prefer to not have your voice on the podcast. Also, I feel like Jordan could probably
edit your voice so that no one would know it was you. Could be anonymous, and
He can do that.
Yeah, like you're in the witness protection program or something.
Yep.
Make you feel really elusive.
Could make it.
For real spooky sounding.
Yeah, we could. Well, I can't. I don't know how to do that. Jordan could do that.
We could.
Yeah.
As a team.
Yeah.
Jordan's on our team.
Jordan's on our team. That's right.
Thanks, Jordan.
Thank you, Jordan. You're the best. Again, send us your stories. Send us your submissions. If you'd like to be interviewed on the podcast, if you'd prefer to do an IRL kind of thing, we could probably make that happen too.
If you know of any spots that need investigated, send them our way.
Well, I was thinking we could honestly just go. We don't even need to have like equipment. We could honestly just go to a cemetery and see what happens.
Yeah.
And then if it's boring, we just won't put it on the episode.
It's true. Yeah.
If nothing happens, we'll be like, okay, well, But if it's cool, if something happens, if we see a woman wandering around laughing,
That reminds me, when are you doing the night market at?
I don't remember if it's the 11th or the 17th of December. It's one of those 2 dates.
Look for it.
There will be a flyer.
She'll be selling haunted.
I will be selling
Dolls.
haunted dolls in punk attire. And yes, they are haunted.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And yes, I do charge extra for the ghosts.
Mm-hmm. As you should.
So come buy one. I think that wraps up this episode. Thank you so much for tuning in.
Thank you.
Sweet dreams.
Good night. Yay.
That was a good one.
I liked it.
This episode edited by 88.8.